This is a story about a professor and a student. It's also a story about a phone booth outside of a corner store where the professor would often stop to call the student, mainly to see if she was available to fuck. The professor's dog would sit patiently outside the phone booth waiting for the call to end so that their walk could resume. The professor's dog was a sad, unwilling co-conspirator, and while he, the dog, appeared to like the student, gently submitting himself to her belly rubs and to her "who's a good boys," the student intuited, somehow, that the dog felt sorry for her, that he had met a dozen other women like her before, and that he would meet a dozen more after she was gone. All of this she could see when looking into his sad brown eyes. It was always drama with the professor and the student, always intense, always on the verge of ending. They broke up in the same park almost every Friday of their 6-month affair. They'd meet there at his behest, each of them arriving from opposite sides of the park. Him with a takeout coffee cup in hand and his dog at his side, her with a bottle of water and a backpack full of books. They'd sit on the same park bench, not too close, but always a little closer if there was no one else in the park. Sitting there, the student would watch the professor remove his glasses and massage his closed eyes with his thumb and forefinger. After cleaning the lenses of his glasses with his shirt, he would take a sip of his still hot coffee and sigh deeply. The student would wait for him to begin. She'd wait because she knew the script by heart. Him, looking across the park at his dog and never at her. "I can't do this anymore. I love my wife. I love my family. I'm a terrible person. I should never have let this happen." Her, "Fine, go away. Stop calling me." Him, in the student's bed half an hour later. "This will be the last time," and "Turn around so I can fuck you from behind." They'd clawed each other like it would indeed be the last time, though they both knew that it would not, in fact, be the last time. He liked kayaking, the professor. He'd drive around in a Subaru with a kayak on the roof whether he was going boating or not. Kayak is a palindrome. He told the student this more than once, usually followed by a joke about keeping his kayak on top of his race car. The student thought he was never sure if he had said this to her before or to some other woman, so he said it to her every time like it was the first time. Altogether he said it to her 13 times, a baker's dozen. She counted, kept a tally in her journal, along with other things. The number of times they fucked, 58. The number of times he told her that Bob Dylan's Lay Lady Lay was about a dog, 3 times, and each time while taking her clothes off and pushing her onto the bed. The number of times he had her over to his house, 2, and one of those times was for a student and faculty get-together while his wife was home. The number of times he told her he'd leave his wife for her, 1, when she was going down on him, and then never again. The number of times she told him that she wanted to end things, just the one time, sitting on that same park bench. Afterwards, he was quiet for a long time. He took off his glasses and rubbed at his eyes, squinted across the park at his dog who was lying in the grass, panting. Finally, without looking at her, he said, "Today of all days, it's like rubbing salt on an open wound." She laughed, but then realized he was being serious, so she tried to cover it up with a cough. He who railed against cliches in class every week, who read out the offending lines from student papers in a mocking voice. She smiled inwardly, but didn't ask why that day was different from any other, and he didn't offer an explanation. As she got up to leave, he reached for her and asked if she really meant it. She nodded and left before he could say anything else. She saw him the following September, 5 months after ending things. He was on the phone outside the corner store. His dog was sitting patiently, the leash a coiled snake on the ground near the professor's feet. Neither the professor nor the dog saw the student, or if they did, they pretended not to. She walked by on the other side of the street and pretended not to see them either.